This evening in the program, another family is breaking its silence over what they say was poor hospital care that may have contributed to the death of their relative. Is enough attention being given to Jamaica's healthcare system? Also tonight, the Caribbean Examinations Council (CXC) has released the results for this year's exams. There were improvements, but there were also reports of exam irregularities. Education stakeholders will weigh in. Then later, the Planning Institute of Jamaica, the PIOJ, says Jamaica's economic growth has taken a hit and the country could be years away from returning to pre-Melissa levels. So what happens now? I'm Tyrone Reed, and this is Lead Story. Thanks for staying with us right here inside Lead Story. Now, the family of 32-year-old Danard Cook is demanding answers from Cornwall Regional Hospital following his death a few weeks ago while in the care of the facility. Danard was battling blood cancer and his family believes more could have been done to help him. Their concerns are also heightened by the fact that his mother died at the same facility 2 years ago. This comes amid similar reports from families raising concerns about the care their loved ones have received in Jamaica's public hospitals. Joining me now is Danard's aunt, Maria Davis. Top of the evening to you, Maria Davis. Welcome to CVM's Lead Story.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here and for my voice to be heard.
Please accept our deepest sympathies on the passing of your loved one. Could you talk to us, tell Jamaica what happened from the time he was admitted to the time of his passing?
The healthcare system in Cornwall Regional Hospital is a very devastated and bad condition. The healthcare system is, my nephew went there to get treatment, and based on all the examining that they have done for him, they comes up and they mention that he does have cancer of the blood, which is treatable. They prescribe a medication that is not in the island. I call several different pharmacies in the island and they all tell me that they don't have that medication. They haven't seen it for years. And so they have alternative medication that can be used, even at Cornwall Regional Hospital, that they said that could help. The doctor refused to authorize that alternative medication, and so because of that, they strapped him down on the bed. He couldn't move. His feet began to swell. I asked the nurse, can you help untie his feet so, when the family member goes into the hospital to see him, and now that he can't move, can you just remove it? The nurse told me that they are unable to move it unless the doctor told them so. I said, doctor, at this point, he is unmovable. He can't move. He don't know nothing. His foot is swollen. There is the water mark on his arm. What the nurses, they do, they burst it and then tie it with Band-Aid and put back the restraint back on his hand, even when he can't. I plead to the doctor, please, can you give the medication, since this one is more work rapidly than the one that you prescribe and it's not in the island. The doctor was upset and he said, no, I'm not doing it. And because of that, he ended up passed away.
And let me ask you, Ms. Davis, did your family inquire why they would need to restrain a patient that is suffering from blood cancer? Did your family inquire why he was tied to the bed?
Yes, I asked several times as to why. they cannot give no reason. That the nurse said it's because the doctor requires it. The doctor said they need to put it on, and his feet was hanging off the bed, it's swollen. There is pictures and video that I have from it pleading to the nurse, and the nurse keeps saying it's the doctor requires it to be on there, and there is nothing that they can do. I asked the doctor myself, calling from overseas to speak with the doctor myself, said, Doctor, please can you remove it? He's unmovable right now. He's not able, there is no threat to anybody. Can you just remove it? And he said, no, we cannot.
Could you say what they used to restrain him to the bed?
They used some strap to strap his two arms, one above his head, one on the side of the bed, and his 2 feet was also strapped with some blue strap that they have that hang off the bed that causes the poor circulation of his foot. So it started swelling.
And you inquired, you said, as to why this was necessary, and no response was forthcoming, only that the doctor required it.
That is correct.
And you weren't advised as to whether or not your relative was being boisterous or anything of the sort, no?
That is correct, yes. He was not. The nurse said there was any threat at all that the reason why the doctor required it, they just don't know, and they cannot give it any information over the phone. I have my uncle and my brother went there to talk with the doctor, and they were unable to get anybody to see why the reason they're restraining.
And of course, so what happened from there? They restrained him to the bed. You inquired, no response was forthcoming. What happened? Talk to us some more about the medication. You're saying there was supposed to be a certain kind of medication was prescribed, and that wasn't available in country. Is that what you're saying? Wasn't available here in Jamaica?
That is correct. I called J&J Pharmacy. I called the entire pharmacies in Montego Bay. I called some pharmacy in Kingston trying to get that medication that the doctor prescribed for him. And every one of the pharmacies that I spoke to said they haven't seen that medication in the island. It's not in the island. And I said, is there another medication that can be used? They said yes. And I called back Cornwall Regional Hospital, the pharmacy there, and I asked them about the next medication, and they say they have that. If the doctor wanted to go ahead and just authorize it, they can send it up. And the doctor said, no, I'm not using it. I spoke with the doctor, my other sister spoke with the doctor, we plead to the doctor, please doctor, at least, he says the 50-50, if they gave him the medication, they are not sure that it's gonna work. I said, well, I'd rather to take the 50 because we never know if the 50 is gonna be a positive or a negative, but we are open for it, and he refused to do it.
How old was Denard, Ms. Davies?
Denard, I did say 32, but Denard is 38.
He was 38 years old. And
yes.
When was he diagnosed with blood cancer?
He was diagnosed with the blood cancer April. It was April that we found out that he has it. He went to the doctor that sent him to Montego Bay to be admitted. And a week or two after that, he ended up passing away.
And at the time of his diagnosis, what stage was the cancer?
There is no stage. I asked the nurse there, was there a stage? They said no. They said about his lungs, his kidney. They mentioned something. I said, what stage is the kidney as well? They said there is no stage. They don't have anything on him. That they can say it's stage 4, it's a stage 5. There is nothing. So he died without a stage. We don't get a stage of what the cancer was. And
so your family is upset about the fact that he was restrained to the bed without explanation, and also the prescription of a drug that wasn't available in country, and a refusal is what you're saying to accept an alternative drug or to prescribe an alternative drug. Did they refuse completely?
Yes, they refuse it completely. And when I do, there is a pharmacy in Mondeville called the Three Angel Pharmacy. The pharmacist, she was very helpful. She tried every best to see if she could get the medication that the doctor prescribed. I don't know how she go about getting it. Every pharmacy says $100,000 and some $1,000 for it, but that particular pharmacy ended up getting it for somewhere. And And I was able to purchase it when the doctor, even when I got the medication, finally got the medication, he said, I'm not giving it to him. So I wasn't sure, like, what's the problem? Why you're not doing
Did he
it?
explain, right, which is where I'm going. Did he explain at all, at any time, did the attending physician explain to you why he wouldn't prescribe this as an alternative drug?
No, he did not explain anything, neither to me nor my other sister.
His insistence was that you get this particular drug.
Yes.
And have you any other concerns? Have you any other concerns? You've outlined the drug, the issue with the restraints. Did anything else happen that you weren't pleased with?
Yes, he was the bedding. He didn't get bed until 2 weeks after he got bed. I have my sister was his mother who passed away as well. 2 years before, there was still the bed condition. It is a very bad when it comes onto bed. There is no bed for the patient. They had to sit in a chair for days, for weeks, and for months before they can actually get a bed. The same thing happened to his mother, that she had to sit in the chair for 1 month before they got a bed, and the very next day they got a bed, she passed away too. And the same thing goes for the NAR. He was in the chair for 2 weeks before they got a bed, and the very next week he passed away.
And of course, this is the Cornwall Regional Hospital, yes?
Yes.
And this hospital, the deadline for completion has moved at least a couple of times. What do you make of that now that your relative has passed away and now you're alleging poor treatment? And of course, you're saying the facility did not find a bed for him until after 2 weeks after he was admitted. Yeah, it appears we've lost the connection there.
Yes.
I think she's back with us. Maria Davis, are you back with us?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, sorry, we lost you there for just a quick second. I was asking you, I'm not sure if you are aware about the deadlines and the rescoping of works for this particular hospital. It's been under reconstruction for quite some time. Now that your relative, you've had 2 relatives that have passed away there, and you're saying there was just not enough space to offer them proper care. How do you feel about that entire situation?
I feel very bad about the entire situation because there was rain falling at one point, and there were people that fell on the ground. There are people passing. There were a lot of rain. The entire place was flooded out. Inside the emergency room was flooded. And there was just, negligent is also one of them. I don't know, the healthcare system that we need the Minister of Health to look into the situation, because the bedding included the emergency room. It's also in a deplorable condition there. For any patient going in. It was
flooded? The emergency room, accident emergency unit was flooded?
Yes, it was raining and it was flooded. The water was just pouring in from the roof.
Have you lodged a complaint about the patient care you believe your relative was subjected to?
Yes, I did send an email I tried to find information online for the Minister of Health. I did reach out many different sources that I tried to reach out to make the complaint, but it was just no response back. It goes, and so my only other option was to reach out to CVM.
And is your family contemplating a lawsuit? My final question to you.
We are discussing because we need answer. We have 2 family members that we lost under the negligence, and yes, we need answers. And the fact that they are saying he passed away because of the blood cancer, which is treatable, and there is no stage that listed on there. There is no stage that they told us, so we need answers for that.
Maria Davis, again, please accept our deepest sympathies. We have to leave it there, but thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Indeed. This is Lead Story. We'll take a break right here and come back with more.
In business. business, you only get one chance to make a first impression. A poor hygiene experience can quickly escalate to a PR nightmare. Don't let this be your business. Upgrade with Initial Hygiene. Our smartly engineered hygiene solutions aren't just robust. They're designed to complement your space and brand while maintaining the strictest hygiene standards. And our contract service ensures that your consumables are always stocked, giving you one less thing to worry about. Initial Hygiene, your trusted partners in professional hygiene.
Imagine if I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Prevention is critical. That's why I recommend Colgate Total.
It's 15 times more effective at fighting the root cause of oral health problems. Prevent problems before they start.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
Thanks so much for staying with us. It's that time of year again. CXC results are out, and the latest results are showing some encouraging signs, particularly in areas like mathematics, where the regional pass rate climbed from 38% to 42%. English also maintained a strong performance, with 80% of students earning passing grades, while several other subjects recorded solid results. But the good news is being tempered by concerns over examination integrity. CXC says exam irregularities increased this year. Earlier today, our newsroom interviewed CXC's Director of Operations, Dr. Nicole Manning, and CXC Registrar and CEO, Dr. Wayne Wesley. And Dr. Manning explained in some detail about the irregularities observed in the recent exams. Let's take a look.
The AI misuse, the first instance that we have had this year, was predominantly around the use in school-based assessment. So that was new for us, but of course it's not something that we want to see continue. The largest instance, though, would be the use of unauthorized devices, particularly cell phones. And we saw a repeat of it where candidates were using the devices in several exams, trying to Google answers, things like that. And so it is something that we are encouraging students, parents, guardians, and the school community and the community in general to kind of encourage students to understand that you're actually, you have turned up for the exam, do not lose your opportunity to be graded. So it's not that there aren't invigilators. You have a ratio of invigilators right across, and they're standing various places in the rooms. You even have another layer of supervisor in terms of the management, secure administration of the exams. What I find, though, is that students believe that they can find creative ways in bringing in these devices. And we have to understand some of the creative ways I would not even describe in public media. But I will say to you that, of course, in the pockets, even if you search, and you have to be careful, remember, we're dealing with minors. So it is important that we understand that really people find different ways of taking in that cell phone in the examination room, but popularly within their, on their person, within pockets and other things like that.
Of course, the executives there of CXC who joined us on the Midday News live interview today. Joining me now is President of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, Aniona Jones, and President of the National Secondary Students Council, Raheem Nelson. Top of the evening to both of you. Welcome to Lead Story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Principal Jones, let me begin with you. You heard there from the CXC boss and of course Dr. Manning as well. Let me pitch my first question to Raheem then. Raheem, you heard the concerns there. Some of your colleagues are trying to be ingenious in their attempts at beating the system. We're not hearing from Raheem. Raheem, are you there? All right, we're not hearing.
Yes, I'm here. You were breaking up a second. Could you repeat the statement?
Yes, we're hearing you. You heard the concerns here from Dr. Manning of CXC. She's saying that, look, your colleagues are being quite ingenious in their attempts to beat the system, and that challenges the integrity of CXC's exams. All right, we're not hearing from Raheem there. Aniona Jones, are you hearing us?
Yes, absolutely.
Your response and reaction to CXC's concerns over these irregularities?
Any activity that undermines the credibility of an assessment is a concern, not only to every administrator, every educator, every parent, and every other student, because we want to know that the integrity of our exams are preserved so that our grades can be seen as valuable. Now, this again brings to the forefront the need for us to have very rigid, consistent, precise standards across all schools across the region. We are always getting such a flack when we try to implement discipline. But this is why we push so hard. This is why we have all of the systems that we have in place in schools. It's to really try to ensure that we inculcate a sense of integrity within our students. And of course, hard work. It is quite disappointing that any student would try to smuggle any contraband into an examination or would try in any way, shape, or form to beat the system. And I am very pleased that it is not a pervasive thing. It is not something that is as widespread as some persons think, and that we're able to catch it with the systems that we have in place with the invigilators. But it is quite concerning, though, that students would go to that extent.
Principal Jones, do you have a snapshot of Jamaica's performance in particular in these exams? I know we've given the statistics for mathematics and English across the region, up from 38% to 42% for math. I think the English came in at around 80%. Do you have a snapshot of Jamaica's performance so far?
Not at this time. We are awaiting the disaggregation by country so that we can position Jamaica's performance in relation to not only the other Caribbean territories, but more importantly to our performance last year. I want to take the time, though, to point out to the public that we don't know in what territories these actions took place. Remember, the CXC report is a regional report. And once we get the specifics of the information, we will treat with it. But I'm feeling very good. I'm feeling very good as a teacher. I'm feeling very good as a principal. And I know that our teachers are celebrating the improvement, especially after Hurricane Melissa. Remember, some students were out of school for as much as a month. And so it speaks to the quality of not just the instruction, but the resilience of our children to actually push and ensure that they really did their best. So kudos to the children who did the CXC examinations this year. And the kid passes, oh, they look amazing. They really look as though our education system is going in the right direction as far as quality instruction in preparation for university is going.
Raheem is with us from the National Students Council. why do your peers continue to try to breach the integrity of the exams, Raheem?
Well, I for one won't say I agree with what they're doing, but there's no single reason. We have to look at the academic pressure, the competition, the fear of failure, and also the access to technology. Because studying sometimes is not easy, especially this year after the passage of Hurricane Melissa. It was really not easy on the Western families. As I said before, I'm not condoning the situation, but I don't think that the irregulation is directed to Jamaica itself, but as said before, it's on the general Caribbean population.
And this whole business with AI, Brahim, I'd love to hear you on that. Do you think CXC's approach to the use of artificial intelligence so far is in step with what's required internationally? Do you feel that we are incorporating it enough in the teaching and learning and the assessment of students?
Well, I think that CXC is moving in the right direction, but I don't think that this can actually solve by CXC alone. We have to include our stakeholders, the Ministry of Education, CXC, schools, teachers, parents, technology companies, to ensure that we're not using, to ensure that the students are not using AI to do the work for them, but to enhance it in a way that you still have the normality, the naturalness of the original work.
Indeed. Let me ask you, Aniona Jones, I'd love to hear you on that. Do you think we are going in the right direction in relation to incorporating the use of AI? For example, I'm thinking one of the things that need to happen is that we need to tweak our approach to the assessment, because the world is moving in the direction of people utilizing artificial intelligence. Why prevent our students now from utilizing it? Why not allow them to, and then we tweak how we assess them by seeing if they actually understand the material that they're presenting?
One of the things I think that is happening is that we're misunderstanding when we talk about the use of AI in education. There is no educator right now does not incorporate some measure of artificial intelligence in their daily activities, and by extension, our children do too. What we are trying to do is to preserve academic rigor, critical thinking, good communication, and of course, originality of thought. We do not want our students to be outsourcing their intellect and outsourcing their capacity to think and to be creative. So yes, we know that there are AI posters out there, but do we want AI creating the poster in a graphic arts exam? These are the kinds of things that we're grappling with. And so the pause that we're undergoing to examine what we're doing to ensure that we're not going backwards.
But aren't we kicking against the pricks, though, Aniona Jones, is the point I'm making. Ultimately, I gather by the time, and this is usually the case, or the region is usually perhaps one of the last to get with the program when it comes to these advances in technology. Sometimes that is not all the times, but sometimes that is the case. Are we kicking against the pricks? Why don't we find a way to assess the students to ensure, as you're saying, they're not utilizing their intellect? We find a way to assess to make sure that they're actually utilizing their intellect.
But that is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. Remember, the move that is being made is to retain school-based assessments for subjects that are practical in nature. So we're talking about theatre arts, physical education, biology, chemistry, where there are experimental or lab components, and several other subjects. What we do not want is the same thing that universities are now grappling with. Mm. Remember, the challenge that we're having is not unique to Jamaica, the Caribbean. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Yes. Let us also not forget that what we do in education must be led by scholarship. We are not just doing this off a whim. We are actually looking at research that is now coming out of those countries who are steps ahead of us to say that they too are rolling back some of the degree to which they utilize the technology within their classrooms because they're struggling with some of the outcomes. Us seeing them go through those things, why would we go down the same path to make the same mistake? And so we are learning as the research is coming out on the impact of intense technology use, and we are adjusting.
All right, we are out of time. Thank you so much, Aniona Jones, the president of the Principals Association, and of course, the president of the National Secondary Students Council. Raheem was with us as well. Thanks to both of you for joining us here on Lead Story.
Always a pleasure.
This is Lead Story. Take a break right here and come back with more.
Every time, peace and love in the place. Jamaica want love every time. Adapt if you say, adapt if you do, and adapt the life if you live. One love, Jamaica. Peace.
The time brought to you by the Ministry of National Security and Peace is...
I'm me, the style is no scam and not style me.
From the market to the farm to the office, money talk is everywhere. But are you making sense or nonsense? The Bank of Jamaica brings you common sense with BOJ. Real stories, real laughs, and real lessons to help you protect, grow, and manage your money. Mattress savings.
At least my mattress. You charge me to sleep on it.
Partner plan.
Remember last year we needed our payouts early? But Miss Pam gave it to her cousin first.
Or a sketchy loan flyer.
Electrifying deals.
See why making the right financial choices is pure common sense. Brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, empowering everyday Jamaicans one episode at a time.
Grandpa, it's 2026. You can't keep hiding all your money in every single pocket forever.
School expenses adding up? Get ready for school with Chris and Charles. From July 9 to August 31, enjoy a low interest rate on loans of $1.5 and $2 million. Plus, get 25% off the processing fee on loans of $1 million Jamaican dollars and above. You could also qualify for one of 50 ready for school grants worth 60,000 Jamaican dollars each. Visit your nearest Chris and Charles branch or www.chrisandcharles.com for details. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles. Conditions apply.
Welcome back. So the Planning Institute of Jamaica, the PIOJ, in its review of economic performance for the April to June quarter, has revealed that the country's economic growth has taken a major hit. Let's take a look at some of the key points coming out of that report. Now, the PIOJ says the Jamaican economy recorded an estimated contraction of 2.9% compared with the corresponding quarter for April to June 2025. It says the short-term prospects for the overall economy are negative, with the economy projected to contract within the range of 0.5% to 1.5% for July to September 2026. For the financial year 2026-2027, the PIOJ's projection is for real GDP growth within the range of 1 to 3%. The report went further to say, with respect to the expected recovery timeline, immediately following Hurricane Melissa, the PIOJ projected that a return to pre-Melissa levels in terms of output would take up to 3 years. That is by financial year 2028-2029. This estimate was grounded in patterns observed following previous weather-related and other external shocks. However, given the pace of recovery so far, the current expected timeline for attaining pre-Melissa output levels is now within 1.5 to 2 years of the event. That is as early as the April to June quarter of 2027. Good news there. Note, however, that full recovery to include rebuilding efforts and replacing housing stock, public infrastructure and livelihoods will be over a more extended period, possibly 3 to 5 years. Well, joining me now are economists Professor Andre Houghton and Janelle McEwen. Gentlemen, thank you so much for making it Lead Story this evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here.
Indeed. Before,
go ahead.
Professor Horton, let me begin with you before we go to the man who writes those threads on X. Professor Horton, what's your reaction to what the PIOJ is telling us?
When I heard the news about what is happening with the gross domestic product, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised because I recognized for a long time now, since the hurricane, the sort of rebuilding effort that the country would need in order for GDP to return to its positive growth trajectory wasn't forthcoming. And it's not something that I'm pleased with, because I've had discussions with a lot of practitioners, both political and non-political practitioners. And when I speak about urgency and how the rebuilding process should be unfolding, then a lot of the times we make excuses about it being too soon. But what I've always said is that hurricanes, the cycle is every year. So if we are taking so long to really rebuild, then now we're entering a new hurricane cycle. There are still a lot of people who are without dwellings, who are living helter-skelter here and there. And what will they do if we get hit by another hurricane very soon? And hurricane alone is not the issue. What you realize also is that agriculture isn't where we want it to be. Electricity, gas, and water, the water situation is pervasive, and we've been facing this water situation for many decades now. You see where the report says the western part of the island where I'm from face the brunt of the water shortages across the island. And every year we keep paying lip service to these things, but it is the infrastructure expansion, the micro dams and so on that are really going to allow GDP to grow. Construction that we expect that should be booming upwards of 5-10% growth only grew by 0.3%. So these are troubling numbers, especially coming out of a devastating hurricane. And I have one thing to say. If this hurricane occurred in Kingston or the metropolitan area, the recovery would have been taken more seriously. But because it happened over in the western part of the island that a lot of the business districts are dichotomized from, then it becomes a charity case. So there's no urgency for redevelopment. There's no urgency to solve our nation's problems. But I don't see these as challenges. I see them as opportunities for us to explore.
All right, let me get your initial reaction to the numbers, Johnny McEwen.
So, good evening once more. I think there are really two stories in these numbers. And I agree with a lot of what Professor Howard would have said. The first is that Jamaica's economy contracted by 0.9% in April to June quarter. And compared with the same period last year, the effects of Hurricane Melissa are still very much with us. But the second story here is that recovery appears to be happening faster than initially anticipated. And PIOJ is now saying Jamaica could potentially return to pre-Melissa levels of output as early as April to June quarter of 2027. And compare with an early expectation, as you would have stated earlier, Mr. Reid, that it could take, projected to take until 2028, 2029. But I think we have to be careful with the word recovery here. Returning to our previous level of GDP is not the same as fully rebuilding people's home, infrastructure, livelihoods, and productive capacity. So PIOJ itself says that broader recovery could take 3 to 5 years. So for me, the question isn't simply how quickly can we get back? It's can we use this recovery to build an economy that is more productive and more resilient than the one Hurricane Melissa disrupted.
But gentlemen, and you're the experts here, so I'd love to hear both of you on this. Beginning with you, Professor Horton. Clearly something is being done right if the PIOJ is saying to us that they are revising their projection for the country return to pre-Melissa levels in terms of output to a shorter period. Clearly something is happening right for them to be able to say that. What is driving that, Professor Horton?
When you look at these numbers and the PIOJ says that growth will return by when you say next year, so that would be 2 years after the event. Take Hurricane Gilbert as an example. Growth returned the following year. Take Hurricane Ivan, for example. Quarterly growth was positive again roughly 1 year later. Take Hurricane Dean. Annual growth didn't really become negative. I mean, they had positive growth straight throughout the hurricane because the hurricane should provide like a rebuilding catapult for you. So you look at Beryl, positive growth return within roughly 6 to 9 months. So Melissa taking 2 years and we're looking for an award when people don't have any water coming through their pipes, 13% decline in water to Montego Bay. As a matter of fact, let us talk about poverty because the United Nations...
No, before you go on, Professor Horton, and I hear you with the disdain there about looking for an award, but what I'm trying to get, and I'm not sure if I'm getting the answer from you, why is, given all that we know, and there are complaints about and of course, many of them justified complaints about the pace of the recovery. But why is the PIOJ looking at these numbers and saying we can revise our outlook? And we're saying we're going to return to pre-Melissa output levels in a much faster time. What is causing that is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, well, like every economic activity, then if you have a reduction in the amount of time that is going to take, then it must be an increase in the amount of effort that is going to be placed on this rebuilding process. So we pay a lot of lip service to these things in Jamaica. I'm saying that the proof is in the pudding. The water challenges that we face is not just a challenge of the hurricane. The water challenge that we face has been a long-standing issue across Jamaica for several decades. And it's not about a single particular government. It's about how the country is managed and what we pay attention to as citizens and as leaders and as journalists, how we report ourselves, as professors, how we deport ourselves, what we put emphasis on when we try to present a particular case. Because face it, if you are not from the western part of the island where if you had running water coming through your pipe and now you have to be purchasing water every 3 weeks, everybody's saying, oh, they need to get somebody who has a water truck to get water, then you're not attached to the challenges that we're facing. And if you're not so attached, then the numbers on paper and somebody saying to you, oh, we're going to change this numbers in 6 months or change it in 12 months without the real action to change those numbers, then we're back at square one.
Johnny McEwen, do the numbers ring hollow for you? And I see where Professor Horton is coming from here. He's saying for many of the people on the ground, these numbers don't necessarily translate to a party for them because they're staring down the barrel of a long road to recovery.
What I must make a distinction here is that recovery and growth to last year, they're not necessarily the same thing. And if we imagine an economy where we have, it's at 100, for example, then Hurricane Melissa came and knocked it down 80. If it subsequently rises to 90, the economy is recovering, but it's still below 100, which was the previous level. That essentially is a distinction we're seeing, as you made mention to a while ago, Tyrone. Yes, we are recovering. So Hurricane Melissa caused a very significant shock. But PIOJ is saying that the value added fell to by 7.3% quarter over quarter in October to December. Then seasonally adjusted real value added increased 3.3% in January to March compared to previous quarter. So there has been a rebound. So that is what you're referring to when you say something good is happening. So yes, the rebound has taken effect faster than we anticipated, but the economy is still dealing with damage from the shock.
All right, we're talking the numbers for the economy that the PIJ released recently. We're going to take a break right here on Lead Story and come back with more.
State-of-the-art security solutions like our new Total Connect smart home automation system that gives you 24/7 access to control your appliances, lights, cameras, and doors using your smartphone, tablet, or PC. As the most trusted electronic security company in Jamaica, Hawkeye has the fastest response times to get to you when you need us most. Trust Hawkeye's Total Connect. Hawkeye, securing what matters most.
In need of a loan? AIM Financial is the place to go. We have loans from $20,000 to $3.3 million. Get a loan to pay school or college tuition, medical expenses, bills, fix up your house, buy furniture and appliances, repair or buy a car. And when you're done, take a vacation loan. AIM has a loan for any purpose. Call AIM today. You won't find a better deal elsewhere. Guaranteed.
So get up and unite for your team. Give the best we've got. It's how we every preach, every part, every deal, every wicked, every soul. And the heart and soul and passion, and the culture, Caribbean flows. When people come out all nation, with the team in a unification. When the stadium ram bleach at the grandstand, and the meaning of unification. It's how we play. It's how we play. When the stadium ram bleach at the grandstand, and the meaning of unification. It's how we play.
Welcome back. Thank you so very much for staying with us. We're reviewing Jamaica's economic performance. With me are economists, Professor Andre Horton and Janelle McEwen. Let's bring you back into the conversation, Professor Horton. In terms of the efforts at rebuilding, how soon, given the scale and magnitude of Melissa, and it's one of the things that I think is needed as a context for the conversation that we're having, should we be further down the road with the rebuilding efforts in comparison to what is established internationally? How do we measure up, if you know that?
Yeah, so if you're looking at how recovery happens, then there are studies out there that has shown that there's a relationship between how quickly a country recover and the level of institutions as well as the fiscal capacity of that country. So what the data shows is that if countries have good institutions, then the process of rebuilding is more fluent and it gets done quicker. If you're talking about time span, then you're looking at a time span that is in accordance to the magnitude. If you take Jamaica, remember that the hurricane wasn't for the entire Jamaica. It was just for a subsection of Jamaica. As a result, the impact should not impact the overall GDP so pervasively that is going to take twice the amount of time to recover as it did back in Hurricane Gilbert. It's going to take twice the amount of time that it's going, and Hurricane Gilbert, mind you, was an all-island hurricane. So these are the things I want us to put into perspective when we are discussing how soon the country should recover on a holistic basis. And we don't expect the country to recover automatically over 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months. However, we expect to see the process of recovery taking place. Now, what processes have you seen that is solving the housing problem on a broad scale level for these persons so that they can have robust housing that can withstand hurricanes. I know hundreds of people who have lost their dwellings and still haven't recovered. What processes? How are we looking at the water situation? And water not just for housing, but water for agriculture. You're following? We are stuck in these archaic type of problems when the world is now at AI, the world is at data centers, the world is at robotics, the world is so far into the fourth and fifth industrial revolution, and we're stuck at, oh, we're gonna take 2 years to recover. That's a good thing, don't you think? We're doing very well.
Jenny McEwen, your take in terms of how Jamaica matches up against what's the benchmark internationally for our recovery efforts. It's something that is very often left out of the conversation.
I believe that it is very encouraging as to where we are currently at, and based on the pace of recovery, that timeline, as we would have realized, is now shortened to about 1.5 or 2 years, and eventually as early as June 2027. I want to put a very large asterisk beside the word recovery. GDP can recover faster than communities, and that's what we often observe after a catastrophic hurricane or disaster. And TIOJ itself says rebuilding houses, infrastructure, and livelihoods can take 3 to 5 years, as I would have mentioned before. So I celebrate the faster output recovery, but I don't want to confuse returning to a GDP level with restoring people's lives, and that is really important, right? When we speak about things that are happening, I think this is a unique opportunity for the government. As many things are happening, as what I've seen as it relates to housing, it's always going to be a topic that is debated over the years because as it relates to what is demanded versus what is supplied. So there will always be a conversation, but this is an opportunity for us to assess and rebuild in a resilient manner. And I believe that, with all due credit, the government must get credit for taking the opportunity to say, hey, we're not just going to just rebuild and try to house people in a manner where, as hurricane season come, we build some structure and then in no time they're destroyed. They're saying, hey, we're going to rebuild and we're going to do it in a structured and resilient manner. And I think that must be commended in the way they are approaching it, and not just to rush and do something that is what we call hurricane.
You said something.
So I must applaud that effort.
You said something interesting there. GDP can recover faster than communities. Shouldn't that recovery, faster recovery for GDP, be beneficial for those communities?
Most definitely. And Professor Hahn would have alluded to the fact that a lot of times we don't see this trickling down to the average Jamaican immediately, or the pace at which it is done is oftentimes slow, and that is something that we have to do. It's an infrastructure problem and an agency problem where we have to make our agencies and our infrastructures more effective and efficient. So as we continue to grow, these benefits are realized in a quicker manner for the average Jamaican.
We have about 2 minutes to go, gentlemen. But Professor Horton, the experts at the PRJ say Jamaica isn't in the throes of a recession. But many people are saying it surely feels that way. Your take on that side of things?
You know, whether or not you're in a recession is besides the point now at this phase, meaning that your GDP is always hovering at 1%, you know? And when your GDP hovers at 1% for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, you get in a sort of an economic situation where your economic position is not determined by gross domestic product as the reflection of what you are. However, because we're in a modern world and we want to live like modern people, we expect to have a modern, rapid, flexible sort of approach towards management of community government, public infrastructure development, that reflects the future and persons benefiting from the future. And that is why I spoke about poverty, because the United Nations defined poverty as surviving on $3 a day, while China defined poverty as a 5-prong if you live in rural area, 8-prong if you live in urban area. The first 2-prong is really clothing and food. The next 3 is shelter, healthcare, and education. Then if you live in the city, then you're talking about access to water, access to spaces to recreation, etc., etc. They're talking about access to Wi-Fi, which is internet, and access to electricity. So we have to take this sort of approach towards managing our communities and the recovery of the nation itself. And as I said before, it's not just about residential, it's about agricultural expansion, it's about expansion in modern finance, it's about expansion of and it's about holistic economic expansion that the country deserves and we want to see on a more rapid pace.
And let me ask you, Johnny McKeown, to talk about that. Some say it matched the definition of a technical recession. What say you about that? The PRJ is saying, no, we're not in a recession.
Yes, I would be cautious about saying that definitively, because a recession is broader than simply pointing to one negative GDP number. And you have to consider the depth, breadth, and duration of the economic decline. What we can say confidently is that Jamaica has experienced a significant economic contraction following Hurricane Melissa, and that contraction has affected multiple sectors. But the current data are also showing a recovery underway. So I wouldn't get too caught up in the label. The more important question for Jamaicans is, are businesses recovering? Are people getting back to work? Are incomes recovering? Are we rebuilding a productive capacity? That is what I would look for. Those are the questions.